Can your anti-racism work really take place within the capitalist system? We'll have a big conversation today on Culture Builder Live. Hey, I'm Chris Wink. I am the CEO and co-founder of Technically, the news organization with a community of technologists and entrepreneurs. Today, I'm in conversation with Kim Crayton. She's a business strategist who has a new book out called Profit Without Oppression. Kim, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Kim, I've known you through seminars and workshops you've hosted for years. I've gone through them. Members of my team have gone through them. And you're out with this new book. The title immediately caught my attention. Profit Without Oppression. For me, I was interested because it seems to be putting what might be a provocative idea out there, that you do think we can finally get outside of the oppressive work within capitalism, is what I think I hear you saying. So
I'm nothing if not a provocateur.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So can the anti-racism work that we've been talking about for a couple decades and more prominently in the last couple of years, does that happen inside the tech economies that I've been reporting on for 15 years?
Okay, no, not as is. And so that let's talk about capitalism. So many people talk about capitalism is evil, capitalism is this, that, and the other. Capitalism is just a theory. It is a theory that talks about private ownership of goods and services. That is what it is. It has been problematic because the founding fathers who at the time knew about Adam Smith's work, who people consider the grandfather of economics, they decided that they would have capitalist or economy adjacent, which meant they had to justify the annihilation of indigenous people and the enslavement of Africans in our economic system. And so they rooted oppression inside our economic system. It wasn't, they didn't have a pure, just, you own this part of the supply chain and you do this thing. And no, it was certain people can't be a part of the system. Certain people not only can't be a part of the system, but they're owned by the system and all of these other things. So, and then I want to make sure I add this, because when I say that, people want to bring up all these other systems, socialism, Marxism, communism, fascism, they're all rooted in white supremacy, every last one of them. So I don't care how you switch it out, you'll still have the same problem.
You make me remember. I won't be able to remember my poli-sci reading too well, but there's an undercurrent in some philosophy that what happens at the end of a revolution is typically powers are just differently entrenched. It's rarely a true transformation.
All you're doing is switching out. Exactly.
Right. And so revolutions often make vulnerable people more vulnerable.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what profit without oppression is, can we have, and this is, again, an economic theory that I plan to spend the rest of my life testing, because I am a scholar practitioner. I believe I'm an independent researcher, and I believe in testing. I don't want to just theorize. So what I am working with my clients to try to prove, to test out, to see. So my overall research question is, can we have an economic system that is rooted in supremacy, coercion, discrimination, and exploitation free?
Mm-hmm. Can we, Kim?
I believe we can, but we'll never know. And the problem is the founding fathers, and if I always draw people back to the Powell memo that was out in 1971 or 70, please go read the Powell memo. I came across a Powell memo while watching from Robert Reich's Saving Capitalism, and he talks about this memo. And this memo is a blueprint for how we got here. Started in the 70s. Now, some other stuff, I've seen other works that it started earlier than that, but this is definitely when they put it on paper. And so to answer your question, can we? Yes, we can, because mediocre, unremarkable white dudes decided it was going to be that way. And so I get to decide in 2022 what I want to experience. So I no longer want to deal with systems, institutions, and policies that are designed to prioritize and privilege the few at the expense of the many. That is how it's designed.
So let's take a couple steps into the book.
And I just want to say the book is not out yet. It's pre-ordered. It'll be out in the fall. It'll be out in next month probably.
I can confirm this because I can assure you when I speak to authors, I always try to actually have read the book. And this time I nervously got on the call and said, "Wait, Kim, I haven't read this book." And she kindly told me that we're at the pre-order stage. So yes, I can confirm this is true.
Yeah, it's in editing at the moment.
All right, fair. So full disclosure, this typically I aim to read.
But you can still pre-order.
Pre-order is there, and I'll note we're getting a couple like LinkedIn messages already. You'll appreciate Cheryl Robinson shouts out Kim.
Hey Cheryl.
Yeah, shouting you out. So let's do a bit of the preview of the book then Kim. So for me as a 15-year tech business economics reporter and journalist, interesting to hear that someone from your vantage point feels that this can happen with private ownership. Yes. I'll leave it at that. Mm-hmm. So let's dive into how you outline this book. I've heard you speak often on anti-racism. What does anti-racist approach look like in the book as you set it up?
Okay, so I have redefined what anti-racism is for me, because when I was doing Cause a Scene, which is how you and I met, which was me being on Twitter, just calling out a whole bunch of nonsense, just every day, just lighting people's asses up. That was just what I did. But that's not sustainable. And that's also, so as an educator is always, particularly if you're correcting behavior, right? It's stop doing that. This is why you're going to stop doing that. And this is what you're going to do instead. Systems, institutions, and policies are designed to keep you in that loop of stop doing that, and this is what and why, and you never get to doing anything differently, and that's by design. So that's why people get exhausted. That's why people get frustrated, because it's not designed for you to do anything. And so for me, anti-racism, because I don't want to, that work is exhausting. I am a joyful person. I do not want to be talking about white supremacy and anti-blackness for the rest of my life. What I want to do is be able to transcend it. And so so also this goes back to, I no longer believe that these systems, institutions, and policies can be dismantled because they're working as designed. They're not broken because they're working as designed. And I don't want to waste any more. As a Black woman, I have only so many resources. I don't have infinite resources. And so and I say this all the time, Black women are the moral compass, and our collective liberation is through us. I cannot afford to be distracted anymore. And so I said, I'm no longer putting new wine in old wineskins. I no longer want to engage with or actively build or fight against systems, institutions, and policies as designed. I want to create alternatives, because that's the problem. And so because I want to create alternatives and I don't want to be mired down into white supremacy, I decided that instead of being against white supremacy and anti-blackness, as that's how most people define anti-racism, I want to be for supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free. So it's for the future that I want to see. And I like that and how it's designed in the book, because it's Profit Without Oppression, a blueprint for building an anti-racist organization. So if you think about a house, you think about blueprints. Every blueprint, every house, if it's defined as a house, has a floor, walls, and a roof. But the blueprints tell you what fabric, what textures, what all. So everybody's house is different, but everybody's house has a floor, walls, and a ceiling or a roof. So that is what the book is about. It is taking these. Every situation is different. Every organization is different. Every organization, the culture is different. Every leadership team is different. Some people have core values. Some people don't. Some people understand this. And so I take people where they are as if they know nothing, as we're starting this together. And the book starts with know thyself, because you cannot do this work until you reflect on yourself. We're so good or get so excited about pointing our fingers at somebody else. This is for you. I'm doing this for you. I'm thinking about, no. I need you to do this for you first. Because if you haven't done that work, you can't do it for me. You can't. You have nothing to give me. And so it's that first thing. And then the second part is know that organization. And that takes folks through a 6-step process that I've developed, because most people in tech and everywhere else think they have a business when they actually have only a product or service. That's all they got is a product or service. And a product or service is not a business. A business requires processes, procedures, and policies. It requires you to operationalize your core values. And this is why I'm not a D&I specialist. I'm not I don't want to be the anti-racist specialist outside of, I call myself an anti-racist economist. But my work is business strategist, and I can't get to that work because that stuff is not in place. And then the third part of the book is know thy organization. And that's where we get into organizational hospitality.
Mm-hmm. Well, funny you should say that, because I was interested in that term. You and I talked a bit about that. So why don't you, I know I'm running up on time already with you, but talk to me a bit about your phrase here, organizational hospitality.
Well, organizational hospitality is how we are going to be able to measure our efforts in profit without oppression, because you cannot manage what you cannot measure. So it is basically a perspective, and I call it from the invitation to the salutation. So we're talking about one thing about profit without oppression and why it shifts capitalism is it doesn't focus solely on shareholder value. It focuses on stakeholder value. And your stakeholders are who works for you, who partners with you, who buys from you, who's impacted by you, and then who's investing in you. Because if all four of those other ones are taken care of, the investment takes care of itself. So organizational hospitality once you've done the work of the 6-step process, it is having organizational leaders see themselves as hosts inside an organization. They are the hosts. They are not the guests. And everybody's gone. So, and I use this because everybody's had the experience of hosting a party or attending a party. And we know what it's like when the host centers us instead of themselves. When they treat us with kindness and care, they care about what we eat. That's how organizational leaders should approach this work. Because if we're trying to build a world that was never meant to exist, let's be honest, I should be still a slave. I should be a slave. So nothing about the systems, institutions, and policies as existed or as exist consider me at all. So for all these marginalized people and people with disabilities and people from the LGBTQ community, they're trying to fit themselves in the systems, institutions, and policies that were made to exclude them. And I want something different. So organizational hospitality and I created a checklist, and you get a score. So now you can measure yourself, and it takes you through the process from before you even put out the job description. What's the job requirements? Who's deciding this? There's so many things you need to think about. So it's about the hiring process, recruitment, retention, recruitment, onboarding, retention, and offboarding. And so it goes through that whole cycle. And that's just one stakeholder.
Right.
And so in the book, I talk about just that one stakeholder because we're talking about businesses. And so we have to start with that first stakeholder is who works for you? How are you treating them? Because in a knowledge economy, folks need to feel welcome and psychological safe for them to give you the information they learn on their job, so that business leaders can use that information for what I learned on my job to innovate, differentiate, and compete and make a profit. And if I don't feel safe, because this happens all the time with Black women, if we don't feel safe, we can see everything that's going on. We can see your stuff setting on fire, and we will sit there and not say a word.
Kim, this is such an important conversation. The new book from Kim Crayton, Profit Without Oppression, is available on pre-order now. We'll make sure to drop a link below. Kim, I always appreciate your perspective, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week on Culture Builder Live.